Today, we are on to round 8, featuring some amazing starting pitchers like Logan Webb, Max Fried, Freddy Peralta, and more. We are covering those names and a few bats as well on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, and the most festive man I see today, Matthew Ane. You can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. And if you are watching on YouTube, you see Matt's got the little Christmas hat on. That's why I said that. And if you are watching on YouTube and you aren't subscribed, you hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And you will enjoy Matt's festive antics, we will say. Or if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And something that is very, very important this time of year, you need to give yourself the gift of joining us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience. Through text message alerts, you're going to get right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute episode. And this time of year, through Subtext, you will get our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, link is in bio, wherever you're listening, watching, and available on any of our social media platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Whew. All right, Matt, we are in it. We are going to be in a festive mood today. We are going to do our best to see, who's on the naughty list and who's on the nice list. But, Matt, I'll be honest with you, round 8 is looking real, real good to me. And why don't you start off with the first guy on our list? I will do a little preface here. So it should have been Christian Walker, but him and Lawrence Butler have switched one spot of ADP. So we are going to cover Lawrence Butler. We covered Christian Walker on our last episode. If you do want some information on him, he has landed in Houston. Things have changed a little bit. But Matt, Lawrence Butler up first today.
Yep. First off, happy holidays. I'll be doing another one with the same hat on following this. But yeah. So Lawrence Butler here. Honestly, interesting is the word I'm going to use for 2025. He came up this year and had 412 at bats. He had 63 runs, 24 doubles, 2 triples, 22 bombs, 57 ribs, 18 stolen bases, and batted .262. Honestly, I'm not mad at what he did this year. I'd love to see what he's going to do in his age 24 season. You look at like the underlying stats of like average exit velocity sitting at 91.1 miles per hour, battling about 11%, creating hard contact almost 50% at 47.4% of the time. Launch angle is looking pretty nice at 35.1%, which is really nice. There's things that also just aren't as pretty, right? Like how often he chases, how often he whiffs, how often he strikes out, and how often he doesn't walk. Those are things that are going to hurt his batting profile, but let's look about like essentially what you're going to look for essentially next year. Well, I think the batting average comes down to about a 245 to 255 range. I don't think we'll see 262 just with how often he doesn't walk and how much he does strike out. I think the power is legit. I think we're going to see another level of that next year in a full season. There's definitely 30 to maybe possibly 35 home run upside with this kid because of how he hits the ball and how hard he creates the contact and how often he does that. I also think that Oakland as a whole, I can't even say Oakland anymore. So Vegas as a whole is in the AAA park, I think is also going to drive up all the power numbers and counting stats for the team as a whole. And I think there's also going to be in the mix for a free agency this year where they're going to bring in another talent. So I look at Lawrence Butler and I go, it's interesting for 2025. He's somebody that I'm actually going to be targeting who I didn't think at the end of this year that I was going to, but now I am. I haven't ranked as my 27th outfielder, and I think it's a fair price. And actually, you're getting him at a really good price because he's going lower than that, if I'm not mistaken.
That's exactly where he's going off the board. I was going to chime in. The 27th outfielder, pick 88.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, it's right on par, and I think it's actually a perfect price.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think Lawrence Butler's a strong outfielder, number 3. I have Lawrence Butler ranked as my 22nd outfielder going into 2025. You mentioned they're in the AAA park this year. I think Butler's going to take advantage of that. Yes, 35 home runs. I don't think is out of the question. And you nailed it, Matt. Great analysis here, by the way. Where's the batting average going to land? The X batting average says 260. I'm not banking on it because I think Lawrence Butler's a guy you could see that wants to play into the power. And you don't know, maybe he becomes like a Kyle Schwarber type where he hits like 240 with 40 bombs. And,
I'll take that.
And as an outfield number 3, you're winning all day. Even if he hits 40 bombs and hits 240, you're still winning there. I think this team wants to win. I think maybe they'll add a little sneaky bat. Nobody too crazy, but add a little something there as well. So I think the RBIs are going to be good. As far as the steals go, he's 58th percentile sprint speed, Lawrence Butler. So I'm not counting on like a huge uptick in steals. Maybe even a little bit down. Maybe like 15 to 18 is where I'd be looking. But a solid. If you can get him as your outfielder number 3, I think you're laughing your way to the bank. I really do love this round here. And a couple of these guys might even need to be jumped around or two, to be honest. But let's move on to our next guy who is a starting pitcher. Let's talk some Logan Webb of those San Francisco Giants, of course. Logan Webb, disappointing year last year, to be honest with you. I was starting to finally buy in on Logan Webb after, quite a few really good years. And after I've just watched him dominate the Yankees one too many times, of course. But you know what? Last season at 27 years old, once again, very disappointed by Logan Webb. 13 wins, 10 losses, a 3.47 ERA for Webb, 33 starts, 204 innings, 172 strikeouts, and a 1.23 whip. He took a step back almost in every single category last year. The ERA went up a couple ticks, down a few innings, down a bunch of strikeouts. And the whip went up really high to a 1.23. So I'm trying to figure out, what's up with Logan Webb here. I'll be honest with you. I have him ranked down a little bit further than this. I got Logan Webb down kind of far. I'm going to be honest. 42, I might have to move him up, but, a lot of the underlying stuff really didn't look great for him last year. The xERA was even worse, had a 4.31. The X batting average at 272. The fastball velocity's down. He's getting the average exit velocities super high. Not getting whiffs or strikeouts. Hard hit rates out of control. Does get a lot of ground balls, which you like, but I don't see it. I'm probably avoiding Webb, especially if the price is here. I just do want to see what starting pitcher this is because this is, I think, a bit high. Matt, I know you've always been a Logan Webb guy. What do you think about Webb coming off the board here as starting pitcher 26, pick 89?
So I actually feel the exact opposite of you. I have him ranked 17 overall in my starting pitcher rankings.
Wow.
And there's actually some solid data as to why I feel I'm right. So you're talking about his fastball velocity, but I think it's kind of irrelevant since he only throws it about 5.3% at the time last year, along with only throwing it the year before at 3.7%. What he really lives on is his changeup and his sinker. He actually made improvements in his sinker, even though it was still hit at 268. But the previous year, where he had really good stat line, it was actually getting hit at a 313. His changeup is absolutely filthy. That got knocked around a little bit more than usual. It's up about 25. Went from this year 248 from a 225. His sweeper is still dominant as well, but he tried to mix in the sinker a little bit more and made serious improvements. That only tells me that there's just a few more kinks that he's working out with this pitch that is going to eventually take him to the next level, which again, if he can get that sinker going, something a little bit more faster instead of leaning on that changeup so much and then using the sinker as a secondary pitch. Now it's that primary and then leaning on that secondary pitch as a changeup and really changes his pitch mix, which will then possibly drive up the strikeout numbers. So I think Logan Webb is actually like going a green arrow up for me in those regards. So I think he's actually just a fine pitcher and he's coming at a serious discount this year. So he's one of my targets in this round, in all honesty. I don't know if that changes your mind on things.
No, not when you have Freddy Peralta and Tanner Bibee and Tyler Glasnow, who I like better than all these guys going later. I see a trend of him not taking that leap to the next level. So when you're talking about tinkering, I feel like he's been doing it for a while and just hasn't gotten to the point where it's showing in the stats because you see the 2022 season, you're all right, like, all right, sub 3 ERA, that K per 9 started to creep up a little bit closer. And then 2023, the K per 9 gets there, but the ERA goes back up. So I think this was the year, like, okay, all right, if he's going to put it all together at this point, age 27, we're going to see it. I like the FIP. I think he's a guy who can keep the ERA down, especially pitching in a good park like the way he does. I just don't ever know if he's going to figure out the strikeouts and getting the whip where it needs to be, because he bumped up to a 1-2-3 this year. Like you said, it just looked like he was tinkering and it didn't, lead to success. So I'm going to go with guys that I think just have a higher upside when it comes to, starting pitching in this round, because I think this is a sweet spot for starting pitching, to be honest. But with that being said, we have names like Max Fried, Freddy Peralta, Tanner Bibee, and Tyler Glasnow coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel and America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you have a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. So just visit FanDuel.com and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And to help you make that $5 bet hit, you don't want to pass up on anything involving the Detroit Lions. With Montgomery down, Gibbs is just a green arrow up, so I'm betting the over on most of his stat lines. So bet on him all day long. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Honestly, guys, you want to win your leagues? There's only one way, and that's having your hands on our rankings and going into draft with them utilized 100%. Not only do we offer our redraft rankings, our dynasty rankings, our prospect rankings, we also have our bust lists, our values, our sleepers, our breakouts, all that wonderful stuff. And you know what? Look, you're here, you're an everydayer, I get it. But you only get a limited time in this 30-minute podcast. How are you going to get the best out of your experience? Join the Dime Club. It's such a minimal cost, and you get a free 2 weeks. So check us out. Links in the description below. All right, now let's get back into it. I have one last point about Logan Webb, and then I'm going to leave it alone, because I can't just, let it be.
I love it.
You named two guys that can't stay healthy for the life of them, and hence why they have dropped drastically in the rankings. That's Max Fried and Tyler Glasnow. Now, Tyler Glasnow, he should be much higher. I think this is a complete underrating. I have him ranked so much higher. I'll take that. I'll take that injury risk all day long. So yes, he would be the pick over Logan Webb. But when it comes to Max Fried, who is our next guy, so I will go back and forth. Max Fried, on the other hand, honestly, I was an owner last year, and I was left pretty disappointed throughout some points of the season and his starts. And then on top of that, the fact that he really didn't, stay as healthy as I like him to, was a little dinged up, but still managed to get about 29 starts this year. Had a decent year, right? Right, like he had 174 innings, 166 strikeouts, a 3.33 ERA. And right, am I reading that right? Wrong stat line. There we go. What is going on here? There we go. Yeah, Okay, let me just go to the top here. A 3.25 ERA. I don't know what's going on. My computer hates me. And a 1.164 WHIP. Now you compare that to the stat line of Max Fried this year, and it's about the same, except Fried had more innings pitched and a 172 strikeouts. But obviously, the pace for Casas strikeouts with Max Fried were a little bit better. But here's the thing. Webb was all year. Webb you can count on. Webb pitches in a better park. Max Fried now moves over to the Yankees with the shorter porch. Has to deal with the pressure of New York City. Also, first year in a new city. My role may stand still. I haven't seen him pitch on another team. So let's see what that's going to bring. On top of that, quite honestly, Fried also has to just stay healthy. So there's a lot other things working against Fried, and why I would pick Logan Webb over him. I have Max Fried honestly fallen so far down the rankings that I have him at pitcher 31 for me. Even with the bump, he still might only get maybe 2 or 3 spots higher because of the landing spot, because of the wind potential. But other than that, for me, I'm going Logan Webb over Max Fried pretty much all day, every day. Whereas, you named the other guys, and they're debatable, but currently, right now, as it stands, I have him ranked over the other 2 guys as well in this round. So, yeah.
Yeah, with Fried, you're right. It's going to be first year, new team, and that always plays out a little bit differently. As we always say, guys are human. We got to take into account so many other things than baseball when it comes to guys first year on a new team. Fried's only made one start in the stadium, so we can't really take anything from it. It was a good start, but you know what? A lot of great points there. I just think Fried's been more consistent throughout his career. Another guy that I don't think there's upside on anymore. I don't think there's upside with Max Fried. I just think we know who he is. Low threes, high twos ERA, a lot closer to a K per nine than a guy like Logan Webb. And the whip's been pretty consistent throughout his career, especially you're talking about like the last 5 seasons. He's been a sub 1-2 whip kind of guy. So I like it. Like you said, there might be some bumps along the way in the stadium, but I think Fried's going to be good. Actually, I have Fried ranked lower than you, Matt. I have Fried at my starting pitcher number 33. I like a lot of these guys in this round when it comes to starting pitching, and I do like Logan Webb, and I do want to move a guy like him up more. I think there's a difference between somewhere where you have him, I have him, and where ADP is. I think there's a middle ground there somewhere with a guy like Logan Webb, who is a good starting pitcher. I just don't like the upside anymore. And then if you're talking about a guy where there's not a lot of upside, I'll take the Fried, where I feel like he's just been more consistent over the last few years. Let's move on to this next bat, though, because this is an interesting name. I've heard a lot about him, especially from those Mets fans. Mark Vientos. And I just think this is kind of high for a guy that's fairly unproven. Vientos is coming off the board, pick 90 right now, which is, if we were drafting him, I would assume it would be for third and not first. Let's just see. Where is this? This is the 10th third baseman off the board. He's going ahead of Royce Lewis, Jordan Westberg, Alex Bregman, who does not have a landing spot yet. And it's just a little bit rich for my blood. I know Vientos, 6'4", 185, big time prospect. Had a pretty strong season last year with 27 home runs, 266 batting average, 71 runs, 71 RBIs, 58 runs. And that was over 111 games, 413 at bats for Mark Vientos. But now he struggled down the stretch in the second half. I know he started striking out a lot more. Those pitchers started adjusting to Vientos. I'm actually trying to pull up those first half, second half stats, and here they are. 291 batting average in the first half for Vientos over 51 games, 247 in the second half, over 60 games, but he did sell out for the power. He went from 12 home runs in the first half to 15 in the second half. So I could see Vientos, a guy where the power is legit, sacrificing some of that batting average for the power. So could Vientos be a 30-plus home run guy, hitting 240, 250? Yeah, similar to a Lawrence Butler type. I'm not going to be mad at it. I have Vientos currently as my 12th third baseman, 13th maybe. I want to maybe move him around a little bit. But, I don't know if I'm doing it here. Maybe it's the Yankee fan in me that's doing it. But I don't know if I'm taking Vientos here. But there is upside in a young bat like him.
Yeah, so like Vientos is a high upside. And what you said very well, it's a very volatile pick. The ROP may not be there. So you're taking it's high risk, right? But also high reward. With this, there's other guys later that I can get, and I could probably capitalize at a more, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess where the leash is a little bit shorter in terms of depth, right? You look at a couple picks later, you got Luis Robert. Dom said this is a great round for pitching. There's a Triston Casas in this round. There's better options in this round. And then in the next round too, there's way more options, like a Mike Trout and things like that I would definitely pick over him. Let's just put his perspective too. I have Vientos, not I'm buried in my rankings. I have him at 14 at the position. Probably going to move up one more to 13 now that I'm looking at who's in front of him. But you really got to look at it. I had Jordan Westberg, like you said, well said. Then there's the Bregmans, the Comaneros, the Colt Keiths. Those are all guys that that are going much later in this draft, and I'm going to draft higher than Vientos.
I'll tell you this: if a guy like Vientos played second base, he could go in this round. Like I would feel so much better about it because second base starts to thin out at a certain point, and a guy that has the pop that Vientos has, could play at second base. But third base, you just named so many more guys that I'd rather wait a couple of rounds and play. I'd play the Junior Caminero game, which you can get a couple rounds later over Vientos.
Well said. All right, guys, coming up next, we're going to try and speed through the last of it because, we took our sweet time today. It might have to just be a part 2 of this round, honestly. So we'll talk about it. That all coming up next.
And I need to talk to you guys about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks curation, it makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time has plenty of great features as well as their all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total up front with no surprise fees when you check out. With their seat views, you get a panoramic view from the actual seat you'll be sitting in before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. With Game Time's coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. All right, Matt, let's just jump right back into it. We got one sneaky closer in this round. It's Raisel Iglesias. And if you guys have been following, our early ADP series, I've kind of been saying these are the rounds where I feel like you could jump in and grab your closer number one. My way too early closer rankings, which I haven't really sorted out fully yet. I have Raisel Iglesias at 6 right now. Had a really strong season last year. He did 66 games with 34 saves, a 1.95 ERA, 69 innings pitched, 68 strikeouts, and a 0.73 WHIP. Wow, that's actually amazing. I'm gonna have to move him up a spot. Matt, you always say this. A lot of pitchers age like fine wine, especially when they start figuring stuff out. I think Iglesias is no exception to the rule. Strikeouts might take a tick down going forward as he's getting older and he's losing a little bit here. But you know what? He's still suppressing those runs, pitches for a great team, and I think there's a lot of upside with save potential. I like Raisel Iglesias a lot as a closer, and feel free to draft him as your closer number one. I think you'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, quite honestly, like with the team, I think on a positive regression end, and just as a whole, he's primed to probably be the RP1. You're gonna get him at a nice discount. I think 6 is a great ranking. I still haven't done it yet. I probably should rank my RPs, but it's really hard to do. I mean, we're too far out from baseball, and a lot of things can change. So, it is what it is. But well said. I don't even think I need to say anything else. I'm going to move on to Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox for today. I have a feeling he gets moved before the start of the season.
Yes.
There's a lot of rumors out there. So it all depends on landing spot. If he stays on this team, I think it's a decent. I mean, it's actually a great price. Like, I'm just going to be straight up with you. Like, Luis Robert is my 11th outfielder. That hip flexor injury honestly gave him a serious setback. It definitely affected him all season long. But this has kind of been the story that we've had with Luis Robert his entire career, except for 2023, where he really just took off. And we were like, okay, cool. He was able to stay healthy. And then, of course, the next year, he misses 2 months. But like when Luis Robert is healthy, he's one of the better players in baseball. So I kind of just got to give him a pass. He's only 27 years old. Yes, he's been in the league for a very long time, but at the same time, you just got to take it with a grain of salt. It's going to be an adjustment. He's also looking to get paid this year, wherever he ends up. So I think, a contract year and a thing where Luis Robert is probably going to, again, want an extension or really test out, bless you, the same test out free agency. This is the year to own him of all years, where I think he's going to take it to the next level because he wants that Juan Soto money.
Yeah, Matt, I'm kind of with you on this one. I'm a little bit lower on Robert than you. I have Robert as my 18th outfielder, but this is a undeniably great pick at this point in the draft because you know what, you're getting him as your third outfielder, and yeah, sky is the limit. He literally was 2 home runs short in 2023 of going 40-20 and hit 264. So even though he sold out for the power, the batting average was still plus and it was still helping you. If you're taking a bat in this round, honestly, it's probably Luis Robert, in my opinion anyway. Let's move on to a starting pitcher here. Somebody I absolutely love, and it's Freddy Peralta. Matt, here's the thing. Now, if you want the safe starting pitcher in this round, you take the Logan Webb or the Max Fried. If you want the ultimate scratch off when it comes to starting pitcher, it's Freddy Peralta, man. Last year, had a bits of ups and downs, 32 starts, a 3.68 ERA, 11 wins, 173 innings pitched, 200 strikeouts, and a 1.21 WHIP. He's another guy, though, Matt. You could say, I could say the same thing about Freddy Peralta if I'm being unbiased. That I said about Logan Webb is that we've been waiting for the breakout. It hasn't ever happened, but I still feel like it's in there. And it could be just, we all have our own guys that we wind up liking, more than, others. Freddy Peralta is one of those guys for me. I just still think there's a year in there where he's going to have a low 3s ERA. He's going to keep the high strikeouts. I think he figures out the whip. He was on the path of, having a really great whip for, career 1.14 whip kind of guy. Can't really explain, the whip jumping all the way up to 1.21 last year, even though he was fully healthy. So I don't think it was really too much of injury or anything like that. But age 29 here, Freddy Peralta, if you were a little bit more safe with a couple of your earlier starting pitchers, I think this is a great upside scratch-off pick. And I have Freddy Peralta as my SP25. So I am a little bit higher than where he is going right now.
Well said. For me, Peralta, like you draft him along with a guy like a Webb or somebody that has really good ERA.
Yeah.
And it's it always pans out. But it is what it is. I'm going to move on. I don't think I need to cover anything else. I want to speed through this now. Will Smith is up, and it's a waste of a pick to draft him here. I'm not even going to go too into it. It's been the theme. It's been the theme of this for a long time. Catchers this early, no thank you. Outside of pick 100 is when you should be starting to look at it. Even with the improvements that he had in his underlying stats, but still putting out the same amount of stat lines that he did from the year before. It's not like it was a disappointing season. Everybody just expected a step forward, which statistically he did, but not on the stat sheet. So you look at it and he's a typical catcher where, hey, I'm not even going to crack 500 at bats, and I'm going to be ranked much higher than I should be because I output like pick 175. But yet I will be drafted at pick 75, and it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Will Smith has no upside to be that, so do not pick him here.
Yeah, Matt, I'm with you on Will Smith. I don't even really think there's much to add here. I wouldn't take him here if you paid me to take him here. But let's move on to our next guy. Let's move on to Tanner Bibee. And this is a sweet spot, like I said, for starting pitching. This is a round where I'm hopefully jumping in on starting pitching because there's so much talent here. And I think all of these guys are going to have pretty good seasons next year. Tanner Bibee, no exception to that. 31 starts last year as a 25-year-old, no less. 12 wins, 8 losses, a 3.47 ERA, 173 innings pitched, 187 strikeouts, a 1.11 WHIP. He should be being taken higher, but fortunately, we're getting him at SP29, pick 95. I have Bibee at SP27, only a couple of spots higher, but really, really great SP3. I think with SP2 upside here, to be honest. The strikeouts grew last year. The ERA came up a little bit, but I will take that for the strikeout gain. And then the whip's just been solid. He's a guy who's pretty good at control, a 1.11 whip. I think Tanner Bibee is a bargain right here. Love him as an SP3.
I love Bibee. We all know it. If you've been around for a bit, you know how much I love Bibee. Bibee's a beast. I think somewhere in the near future, he's top 10 SP. He has all the makings of it. He's going to be incredible. So this is a locked and loaded pick for me. Moving on, Riley Greene of the Detroit Tigers. Quite honestly, he impressed me this year. Played a good chunk of the season. Only missed about like 23 games, which isn't atrocious. And that Detroit team is sneaky good, and I think this year it's going to be even better. He had 512 at-bats, 82 runs, 27 doubles, 6 triples, 24 bombs, 74 ribs, 4 stolen bases, and batted .262. You look at what he's done last year, and you're like, you would have liked a little bit more in the power category, but I think with the missing of the games and also, too, just kind of getting back into things, it kind of slowed him down. But you look at the underlying stats, xWOB is at 353, the slug is at 477, the average exit velocity is 91.3 miles per hour, barrels 13.4% of the time, creates hard contact 47.1% of the time. His launch angle is absolutely amazing. We just need to see a little bit better plate discipline. This kid has 35 home run upside without a doubt. He's a mountain of a man at the end of the day at 6'3", 200 pounds. Your prototypical big beast home run hitter. He's going to be great. I'm drafting him actually with confidence this year. And just for perspective of where I have him at 32, similar to where he's going now. Riley Greene, great pick.
Yeah, I have Riley Greene at 29. Literally, he's coming off the board as the 29th outfielder, so I'm right in sync with ADP. My bold prediction, Matt, last year, I almost nailed it. It was that Riley Greene was going to be an all-star and go 2020 and be the best player on the Tigers. I think I nailed it as far as he had 20 home runs, he was an all-star, and he was arguably the best hitter on the Tigers last year. I think I was just a year off. In 2023, he was 73rd percentile sprint speed. Last year took a step back to 60th percentile, but I think it was due to some of the him being banged up. But I love this pick here. Let's go on to Triston Casas, another young player that I think is being underdrafted. I have Casas right now as my number 7 first baseman coming off the board. I love this pick. Another guy who was a little bit banged up last year, super high power upside. Draft Casas here with confidence.
Yep, Casas is great. Let's see if he could actually be healthy this year. Last pick is Tyler Glass now. Honestly, just pick higher than this because he doesn't belong in this round. Guys, with that being said, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review. Do everything you can to make this show successful because we work hard for you and we want to continue that. And when you're done checking us out, check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. With that being said, guys, have a great holiday. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
See ya.